Russia and Ukraine in the air, at sea, and on energy infrastructure. Starmer also announced an additional $2 billion of UK export finance to buy more than 5,000 air defense missiles. This comes on top of a £2.2 billion loan to provide more military aid to Ukraine, backed by profits from frozen Russian assets. Meanwhile, dozens of construction workers have been pulled out alive from metal containers after an avalanche buried them in the Himalayas in India's Uttarakhand state. They survived as the containers, which the workers were living in, had enough oxygen to sustain them until rescuers could dig them out. On Friday, 54 workers were buried when the avalanche hit a construction camp near Maran village. 8 of them were killed. The other 46 were rescued in an operation that lasted almost 60 hours in sub-zero temperatures and concluded on Sunday. Uttarakhand State Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami has thanked rescue teams for their efforts in challenging conditions. Members of the Indian Army, National and State Disaster Response Forces and local administration had worked to free the workers using helicopters and drones for the operation. Back home in Nigeria, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has assured the people of the state that his administration would implement the Supreme Court's verdict after carefully reviewing its certified true copy (CTC). This followed Friday's judgment of the Apex Court, which declared the council polls conducted in the state on October 5, 2024 invalid. You will recall that the Apex Court also ordered the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and the Accountant General of the Federation to stop monthly federal allocation to local governments in the state. In a statewide broadcast yesterday, Governor Fubara revealed that he had met with his legal team who expect to obtain the CTC by Friday, March 7. He emphasized that his government was committed to upholding constitutional principles and would act in accordance with the law. Let's take a listen to Governor Fubara addressing Rivers State residents and citizens yesterday.
People of Rivers State, we are all aware of the recent Supreme Court judgment and the pronouncement regarding aspects of the lingering political dispute in our dear state. Although we disagree with the judgment, we are bound to obey the order made therein as a law-abiding government. Since inception, we have conducted the affair of government within the framework of our constitution, due process, and the rule of law. While we are not above mistakes because we are humans, we believe that we have not, as a government, done anything deliberately to trample on the rule of law or the hallowed principles of constitutional governance. Accordingly, I've had a meeting with my team of lawyers, and they have assured me that the certified true copy of the judgment may be available to them by Friday, the 7th March of 2025. I assure you that upon the receipt of certified judgment, we shall study the ramification and implement them without reservation to move the state forward. Furthermore, given the outlawing of caretaker arrangements in the local government system, I hereby direct Head of Local Government Administration to immediately take over the administration of the 23 local government council, pending the conduct of a fresh election by the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. I further direct that the outgoing local government chairman to formally hand over to the Head of Local Government Administration by Monday, the 3rd of March 2025. Although our dear state seems to be back in trying time, I urge everyone to remain calm and peacefully go about with their legitimate daily activity as we continue to do everything in our power to advance our responsibility.
Governor Fubara's decision elicited reactions from South-South leaders Chief Sarah Igbe, Pan-Niger Delta Youth Forum, PANDEF, and PDP chieftain Olabode George, who all frowned on the Apex Court's judgment. Reacting to the development yesterday, some leaders and stakeholders of the South-South geopolitical zone urged Governor Fubara, Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, and the political class to find a political solution to the emergency in the state without compromising last Friday's judgment of the Supreme Court. The Nigerian Senate has stated that it will not be investigating the sexual harassment allegations made by Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan against Senate President Godswill Akpabio, as no official complaint has been submitted. Speaking on Sunday, the Senate spokesperson Adeyemi Adaramodu clarified that there is no formal petition before the legislative body regarding the accusations. This comes amid growing calls for an open investigation, including a demand from the Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF. Senator Akpoti Uduaghan had alleged on national television program that Akpabio was victimizing her because she rejected his sexual advances. Addressing the issue, Adaramodu explained that the Senate does not act on media reports or social media claims. Let's take a listen to him speaking on this situation.
Really, in the Senate, we don't conduct our affairs on maybe when we pick something up from Facebook or in the media, and we just rush to the chamber and we start conducting our affairs on that. We don't do that one. There must be an explicit, straightforward complaint from any senator, for that matter, about any misdemeanor that person alleges that another senator, not only the Senate president, even if it is me, that the senator has committed against him or her, and that is, then it will come, the senator will raise it and we drop it, and then the Senate as a whole will now decide that this is necessary, this is worth it to go to the ethics, privileges, and public petition. And what happened was that immediately Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan raised her voice, or that she wanted to talk even while she was not sitting where she was supposed to sit, and she was raising her voice. Even the Senate president, instead of muting her own microphone, he did not do that one. He allowed her to maybe just express herself. Then other senators were now pacifying her. Sit down, don't do this, don't do that, including the minority leader of the party that she belongs to. So definitely the Senate and the senators, they have been making peace with that and on that. And fortunately, when the Senate reconvened on the following legislative day, Senator Natasha did not come to the chamber that day. And then the Senate raised the issue that generated throughout the weekend and the previous week. That was when they said the Senate resolved that, okay, the ethics, privileges, and the public petition committee is the one that we now call the senator involved, talk to her, advise her, necessarily teach her, tell her what to do. And then that will be the end of it. And in fact, the Senate caucus of Kogi State, on behalf of Senator Natasha, had rendered an apology, which the Senate has even already taken. So the next, maybe a few days after, 2 or 3 days after, our sister now came to arise and now maybe started another topic entirely. That is what now brought the present fiasco. 24. Okay.
In a recent development, there are strong indications that both the ousted Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, and the current Speaker, Right Honorable Mojisola Miranda, may step down from their positions this week. Reports suggest that their resignation is part of a resolution reached by the Governance Advisory Council, GAC, in a recent meeting to pave the way for a new speaker from Lagos West, likely to be announced on Wednesday. For weeks, the Assembly has been embroiled in a leadership crisis following the removal of Obasa by 32 out of 40 lawmakers on January 13. The crisis took a dramatic turn on February 27 when Obasa, accompanied by heavy security, stormed the Assembly and held a controversial plenary session with only 4 lawmakers insisting he remains the Speaker. The turmoil has deepened division within the ruling All Progressives Congress in Lagos State, with the GSC and party members aligning with either Obasa or Miranda. Drivers and owners of trucks conveying goods from the north to the southeast have protested against incessant killings of their members by suspected members of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. They staged the protest yesterday in Jos Plateau State capital, decrying that many of their members had been killed and their vehicles burned in the attacks. The drivers, under the umbrella of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, heavy trucks, marched with placards with different inscriptions such as "Stop killing northern drivers," "Tinubu should protect our members," and "Enough of burning and destruction of our trucks in the southeast." They listed the most dangerous routes as including Enugu, Lokpanta, Okigwe, and Okigwe to Umuahia in Abia State. Addressing journalist Mahmoud Jafar, who led the protest, said unprovoked attacks, intimidation, and harassment against truck drivers from the north had become the order of the day in recent years. He also said they would boycott the transportation of goods to the southeast for their safety and security if the situation persists. In a tragic development, no fewer than 6 persons have been killed by suspected armed herders in a fresh attack on Se Ugema Chul Mbakesa community, Ugbam, in Ukum local government area of Benue State. The incident happened on Saturday night, leading to many residents deserting the area. A source who spoke on condition of anonymity explained that 7 bodies have been recovered, while many others were still missing. The incident was confirmed by the chairman of Ukum local government area, Mr. Jonathan Modi, who spoke from the scene of the attack. You're currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We're now heading to the news analysis segment. I have veteran journalist, political, social, national and international affairs analyst, Mr. Chukuma Okoro, joining me to discuss the issues on the news this afternoon. Always a pleasure to have you here, Mr. Okoro. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'd like to begin from where we are. We're in Lagos at the moment, so let's start from the Lagos Assembly crisis. Tension as armed security operatives storm Lagos Assembly complex. That is today. This sounds like old news, right? Because we read the same thing last week on February 27, when Obasa stormed the Lagos House of Assembly, insisting that he was going to sit in plenary. There have been so many conflicting information on the Lagos House of Assembly crisis, with different sources giving different information to different journalists. So I want to first of all look at, is that someone orchestrating a chain of misinformation on what is happening on the Lagos Assembly leadership crisis? Or what exactly is going on? Why are we hearing conflicting reports? Today we are hearing that Obasa to step down. Tomorrow we hear that, Miranda to step down, Obasa to come back, Obasa to step down, Lagos West or the GAC to draw up 7 names from Lagos West to take over. What is really going on?
Well, I wouldn't call it some sort of misinformation. But if you say that is someone orchestrating, yes, people are orchestrating what is going on in the assembly since the impeachment or the removal, so to say, of Obasa. But if you talk about misinformation, is there anything that they put out in the media there between 13th up until this moment that has not happened? Nothing. Nothing. Obasa said, I'm not impeached, I was removed, and my removal was illegal. I'm going back to my seat to resume as the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. It happened before our eyes. So when you talk about misinformation and conflicting information, I don't see any conflict of information there, because like I said, everything that we have heard, the division in the GAC, the involvement of the First Lady, the involvement of the President, nobody has refuted that. And Obasa says, look, I am still loyal to the president, but I'm acting on my own behalf. I'm acting on my own accord. The president is not telling me what to do. And we have information that, look, the president might be not directly involved in all of these things, So it's all in the play of politics. It's in the mix of politics. And if you talk about people putting out information, these are things that rumor mills, but these rumor mills, it's like we say in our local parlance that there is no smoke without fire. Before anything comes out to the public, understand that, look, there must have been undercurrents that drove those things to come to the public like we see them. So essentially, what is happening in the Lagos State House of Assembly is going to continue until there is a form of stability. And it will get to what we call a mutual hurting stalemate, where both Miranda group, the Obasa group, both of them are tired and they are looking for, okay, now who is going to separate this fight more like? So, because if you look at it, the GSC, the Justice Mandate and the Legacy Mandate, all of them are still, it is a struggle, not just for the soul of the House of Assembly, but for the soul of Lagos State. That is what is playing out in all of these things. And I keep saying, whether people believe that the president is involved or that he's not involved, whether Obasa has the capacity or not, my understanding of everything that has happened is that the president and his wife and those people behind the president are trying to manage Obasa carefully, so that he doesn't torpedo the sort of peace, the kind of peace, the seeming peace that the APC has in Lagos State.
Looking more like a fragile piece at the moment.
Fragile piece at the moment. Fragile piece.
So journalists were not allowed to go in and cover plenary. Security operatives are saying that they are not allowed. Also, yesterday, the acting clerk of the Lagos House of Assembly told certain people who worked in the assembly that they should work from home until further notice, right? In all of this, with all of this situation, plenary is to hold today, and we don't even know who is going to preside over that plenary,
Okay.
Mr. Okoro. We don't know if it will be Obasa or if it will be Miranda.
So
we don't want to preempt, but we don't know if Miranda may be stepping down today, if Obasa will be taking over for a while until someone else comes in. What will be the best impasse in this situation? Obasa to just, like the Gen Z say, take his L and move on, or for both of them to step down and for someone else to come into the mix so that we do not have that factionalization, the Miranda faction and the Obasa faction.
You know, the point of it is that in conflict resolution, because this is more like a conflict now, in conflict resolution, it will be difficult to take out both Miranda and Obasa and have peace in that assembly. Take it from me. It will be difficult to take both of them out and have peace. If you bring in another person, the fight will continue. Do you know why? Because Obasa and Miranda might even gang up against that person. You know, it's like when, let me just use one instance now. When America wanted to make peace in Somalia, they left out Mohammed Farah Aidid. And the moment they did that, the American envoy, Robert Oakley, said, look, this thing is not going to work. You can't take out the person at the center of the drama and expect to have peace. And it didn't happen. So clearly, it's either you allow Obasa and Miranda to slog it out to the final, to the finish, you know, to see who emerges victorious between the legacy and the justice mandates, between the president and whoever is against the president, and all of that. If you bring in a third person now, the war or the battle is going to become more intense because...
Do you think the GAC knows this or they recognize this?
You know, you see, sometimes because politics is involved, because it's a matter of interest, everyone is trying to protect his interest. People tend to go out of reason. They might understand these things the way I have said it, but because their interests are involved, their interests becloud their sense of judgment. So they are not able to follow the side of reason, you know, to do what is needful.
How can these lawmakers focus on legislative duties if they, with this kind of crisis?
Legislative duty?
They are supposed to be advocating for their constituents that puts them in there now, Mr. Okoro.
Have they been doing that? Even at the National Assembly level? You know, so you see, some of us are of the opinion that, look, we don't even need this charade called legislatures.
We don't need the legislature.
We don't need them because at this point, because they do nothing.
Mr. Okoro, you have the executive, you have the legislature, you have the judiciary. If you take away the legislature, where do you want to put them?
The legislature we have now, they are under the thumb of the executive. Are they independent? The answer is no. Clearly no. Look at how they are being manipulated both at the national level and at the state level by governors and presidents and all of that. Is that what we want? Oversight functions that they go to ask for whatever? That is not what we want. I am not trying to say that, look, that the legislature is not important. I am saying that as presently constituted in Nigeria, they don't do anything. They do nothing. Can you point to any law that the Lagos State House of Assembly has made since they were sworn in June 2023? Can you point to one?
That impacts
just one that has impacted possibly on the life of Lagosians? You can't, even at the National Assembly level. So it's just like a ritual. They go there every day, take emoluments, make noise, fight, accuse themselves of sex scandals and all of that. And Nigerians are cheering, Nigerians are supporting.
But that doesn't mean we should call for a dissolution of the legislature.
No,
there are three arms of government in a democracy for a reason.
I'm not actually calling for their dissolution. My call is that, look, Nigerians should expect more from them. Nigerians should hold them to account to do more, and not this kind of infighting that we see every day. We ask them to go there and represent us, make laws for a good governance of this country, but they are not doing that. What do? We cannot dissolve them. So the only thing we need to do is to continuously hold them to account by asking them, what have you done for the number of months, years that you have been there? That's exactly my point.
When you look at this, one of the highest points of this whole crisis is the fact that no one even knows what is going to come out of it, right? And 2027 is fast approaching. Everyone is talking about 2027 and what will happen then. If we're taking all this time to solve infighting, like you've called it, because that is really what it is, The APC, they are not the only people. It's not only those party members. They're in the Lagos State House of Assembly.
They are majority. They are majorities.
Because they are a majority, they can now hold the House to ransom, holding it down, preventing lawmakers from carrying out their legislative duties to Lagosians for this long. How long would it take to actually solve this crisis? Come to an impasse, have a speaker that sits.
You have simply amplified the point I made that they are not doing anything there. Because if they were doing anything reasonable, anything sensible, they will not be involved in this charade.
You know, there are certain people who are of the opinion that the corruption charges against Obasa were manufactured, like giving a dog a bad name in order to kill it. And that's the reason why everyone, both in the legislature, Nigerians, the executive, the governor, the GAC, they are more concerned about maybe solidifying Obasa's position or non-position as Speaker of the House than focusing on those corruption charges. Because to the average Nigerian, that is what we should be talking about.
You see, the average Nigerian shouldn't be talking about the corruption charge. EFCC should be talking about the corruption charge. Has any formal petition been made against him? I'm not aware. The only one I know is that a certain Lagos State Anti-Corruption Coalition wrote something and said, look, Obasa used 17 billion naira to construct Lagos State House of Assembly gate. And the spokesperson of the House simply said, no, it is not true. We didn't spend that amount of money. But he didn't state how much they spent. He didn't even tell us when that construction happened.
But it's the same lawmakers that came together to say the reason why they are impeaching Obasa is because of this appropriation of
those House of Assembly members, have they on their own put up a petition to the EFCC? Are you aware of any? Are you aware of any petition against Obasa before the EFCC?
So that tells you that they are not serious about the corruption
Exactly the point. See, what is happening in the Lagos House of Assembly?
I don't want to focus too much on Lagos. I don't want to focus too much on Lagos. Let's go to Rivers State. Let's go to Rivers State because it is almost the same debacle. Of course, security has been beefed up as the Rivers Assembly resumed sitting after Supreme Court ruling today. And also, the Rivers Assembly has issued a 48-hour notice to Governor Fubara to present the 2025 budget. You do know with the Supreme Court ruling on Friday, there's been a lot of hue and cry. Pandef is not happy about it. Certain PDP chieftains and stalwarts are not happy about it as well. But what do you think about how Governor Fubara has taken it? Why do we have a situation whereby a governor has to say, okay, I will implement the Supreme Court judgment? Shouldn't it be automatic? The Supreme Court judgment will be implemented, because if he refuses to implement it, we do know that almost nothing will happen, Mr. Okoro.
You see, I see him as someone, he comes across as someone who is a man of peace. He doesn't want to disobey the law, especially that of the Supreme Court. And if he says, I will implement it, well, he also put a caveat to it. He said, on the 7th of March, when we get the certified true copy of the judgment, then we will know the direction to take. Choma, that thing is open-ended. The governor has clearly not said, now this is what I'm going to do. It's open-ended because he said, I'm meeting with my team of lawyers, including the State Attorney General. And after the meeting, when we have the certified true copy of the Supreme Court judgment, now we'll get into action. And recall, too, that the governor has also said, I'm going to conduct fresh elections into local governments. Now, also going against the direction, the ruling that says the PDP local government chairman, whose tenure had expired, should return. He didn't say that. He said, hand over all local government chairmen elected on the platform of the APP, hand over to the head of administration of local government areas. If you put all these things together, you understand that the governor, Sim Fubara, has not clearly given up on the fight. He's still broiling. He's spoiling for fight.
That much is evident. But if you say he's spoiling for a fight, it doesn't look like that. If you call him a man of peace, he's been trying to use certain peaceful
when
methods.
You say someone is a man of peace, doesn't mean that he avoids war.
But the assembly issue.
Some people say that if you want peace, you go for war. You go to war.
But Mr. Okoro, the assembly issuing a 48-hour notice to Fubara to present the 2025 budget, which he has even presented before the Victor Okojumbo-led assembly. Right now, Martin Amewule is back, and he feels that he now has legal backing to actually give these a kind of ultimatum. Aren't we seeing a crisis between the executive and the legislature in Rivers State?
It's obvious, but let me also ask you, is this the first time that the court has asked him to represent a budget? Did he do that?
Well, so what following the Supreme Court ruling this time around? That
he's following the Supreme Court ruling. But mind you, he said, We will implement. But let us take a look at the CTC. I'm meeting with my team of lawyers. And when we look at the CTC, we will know the direction to take. If you look at what the governor, if you even if you read carefully, or if you read carefully through the lines of that speech, you know that the signs are ominous that he has not given up. And on TV this morning, on the show that I anchored this morning, VOP this morning, I asked my guest analyst from Port Harcourt, do you think that the Rivers State House of Assembly, the Martin Ame-led faction, the 27-member, do you think that they will impeach Simeonaya Fubara? He said clearly no, that they will dare not. That they will not, that the Rivers people will resist it. That the only way they can impeach Sim is if they move their sitting away from Rivers State. That if it tries to happen in any part of Rivers State, that the people will resist it. Because the people are clearly on the side of Sim Fubara. They like what he's doing. They don't like what his estranged godfather is doing to the people of Rivers State and to himself. So it's quite ominous. We are yet to, get to the end of the tunnel, if you ask me about Rivers State politics. The Supreme Court might have delivered the judgment, but the politics of it is still very intense, and it's not going to abate in the coming days, if you ask me.
Mr. Okoro, the light seems far off because this is looking like a very long tunnel at this point. But right, here is the thing. The Supreme Court actually gave a verdict on the withholding of local government allocations and actually struck out the local government election that was held on October 5, 2024. Of course, the Supreme Court also talked about the situation with the defected lawmakers, but there's still an appeal court pending judgment
on what?
On this, isn't it?
On what?
On these defected lawmakers.
No, it's at the Supreme Court.
Because the Supreme Court judgment was mostly on local government allocation. So Amewule now coming to sit and giving an ultimatum even before his issue has been fully resolved. Does that mean that the part of the Constitution that says when you defect, you lose your seat, does that mean it does not work for Rivers State?
We'll get answers to all of that. I'm happy that you also understand that the Supreme Court reserved judgment on their defection. The Supreme Court based their judgment on the prayers that they asked regarding the allocation to local governments.
But don't we need to start looking at the process of defection? Because when lawmaker says, oh, we have defected, this is just a verbal or an oral admission. Is it something that needs to be put in writing so that when you want to say, oh, this person defected, so they have to lose their seat, you can then present where they signed and said that they defected?
That's why I said that the Supreme Court judgment on their defection will put paid to all of that, all of those puzzles around defection. And mind you, too, I think what is happening, I don't know if we're able to take advantage of this opportunity to also strengthen our jurisprudence, because you also understand that courts in Nigeria have clearly said membership of political parties is entirely the internal affairs of parties and not the court to decide. Do you understand? Now, you also see a Supreme Court saying, look, a particular election is declared invalid. Meanwhile, the same court says, look, the Constitution says that the Electoral Act says that no court has the right to stop an election from being conducted. So where does that leave us? Conflicts here and there. It got to a point that even INEC had to say, in Rivers State case, that there are so many conflicting judgments that we don't even know which one to follow. So
in all of these conflicting judgments, would you say that the pro-Wike factions have been much more favored than the pro-Fubara factions?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. It's just a historical fortune. And that was the mistake Fubara made. That when it looked like as if the president had brokered peace, on behalf of between the both of them, they said, go and withdraw your case. Similar, Sim Fubara went clearly and withdrew his own case, but the other parties didn't withdraw their case. It was based on that a certain judgment was delivered against them. So the Wike camp, if you ask me, they are just fretting. They are like a drowning man that is looking for a straw to hold on to in all of this, if you ask me. So that is clearly the situation. Until this matter comes to an end, it will be difficult to say, look, this is the faction that is holding sway at the moment.
It is quite unfortunate because what we were taught growing up was that the Constitution is the number one guiding principle,
the ground norm for
everybody, and that no one is above the law, right? And that is why I talked about this defection and why it seems that this River State situation is different. Recall when I think it was Arabanbi who came up to say, oh, these lawmakers embroiled in the Lagos Assembly crisis, they will be moving over to the Labour Party. And we're having conversations on it, and many political analysts were of the view that, of course, they will not move because they know that if they do, they would lose their seats. So does that only apply for people leaving the ruling party to the opposition party?
Ask those analysts, who has ever lost his seat for defection? Has anybody?
So that section of the constitution that says it's not followed and there is no due process, nobody is checking it.
You see, most of is the constitution specific on that, or the Electoral Act? And if you go to the Electoral Act, INEC will tell you, no, these things are, the Electoral Act is different from our guidelines. So they are able to play on our intelligence. They are able to play on our docility. Selective rejection of values and principles. When it suits them, they take it. When it doesn't, they say, no, it doesn't work in this direction. Exactly my point. All these cases that we are seeing, are we able to take advantage, the opportunity that these things provide for us, to galvanize and even strengthen our jurisprudence? The law is, like they say, the law is an ASS, except you want it to work for you, it will not work for you. And a certain lecturer of mine said that, look, justice is the will of the stronger party. In how many occasions have we seen this happen? Court judgments are interpreted. Mind you, the Attorney General of Rivers State is also going to interpret the Supreme Court judgment the way it suits them. So it is too early to say that the governor is kotoing now.
So we are having a judiciary that gives judgment, or judges that give judgment with bias in their hearts.
You are the one that said that.
I'm asking a question, Mr. Okoro.
Does it look like?
I'm asking you, does it look like that to you?
Okay,
because when the same thing is interpreted in different ways, remember the whole
they are also able.
Following the 2023 election.
That is why I said that the law is more like a two-edged sword, something like that. In one instance it suits you, and in another it doesn't. So people interpret, especially people that have. The Attorney General of the Federation can interpret a Supreme Court judgment, a court judgment, to suit the imperative, the exigencies of the moment. For the federal government, the state Attorney General will do the same thing. We have seen situations where a court said, look, this is this and this is this. No, Attorney General says no. Even in that River State, the Attorney General says no, this is the way we have interpreted the law. And because they are in government, they are going to implement it the way it suits them. That is the conundrum we are into in this country.
Mr. Chukuma, just before you go, truck drivers in the Plateau State just are protesting the killing of their members by suspected members of IPOB. They're saying each time they drive from the northern part of the country to the southeastern part of the country, they are intercepted by IPOB members who go ahead to burn down their trucks with the goods in it and actually kill some of their drivers. And so they will stop bringing goods to the southeast if these persists.
Who told them that those people are IPOB members? How do they have that information? It is the intelligence community that should know people that are involved in those things, because IPOB has also come out clearly to say, look, these activities are not carried out by our men. So intelligence community, have they been able to tell us who the unknown gunmen are? And if these truck drivers are laying this complaint, how about the headsmen that are killing farmers in parts of the middle belt, in parts of the country?
When we try to draw parallels in situations like this, it almost sounds like a justification of the complaints that these people are making.
It's not a justification. Neither is the killing of herdsmen justified too. Nobody is trying to justify the fact that trailer drivers are killed and their goods burnt and all of that. But it is the characterization, the typification of the fact that, look, these people are IPOB members. How did they know that they are IPOB members? Wouldn't that be the duty of fifth columnist to say, look, give a dog a bad name in order to hang it? So when we draw parallels, we are just trying to highlight, we are trying to spotlight what goes on in other parts of the country and call on security agencies, the intelligence community, to unravel these things, unpack this situation so that we can get to their root causes and take them out. Because if we keep blaming and taking blames and scapegoating people, it's not going to solve our problem.
So naming the name of IPOB is more like scapegoating.
Exactly the point. Exactly the point. So how do they know? Because IPOB have also come out to absolve themselves. They say we are not involved. So who are the
do we pin it on? Unknown gunmen?
Unknown gunmen. But as it is, the intelligence community should tell us who the unknown gunmen are.
But these unknown gunmen will be costing people in the southeast certain goods that come from the northern region of the country. Cattle, grains, perishable items, setting trucks ablaze, looting these trucks and killing their drivers. At the end of the day, people of the southeast who are suffering these things.
No, so it's like the responsibility of the federal government, to get to the root cause of this matter. And from their body language, from the body language of the federal government, from the body language of the Nigerian state, it looks like, well, people in the south, the people from the south is, well, it's your business. If you want to kill yourself, kill yourselves. Because it's difficult for me to understand why the federal government cannot stop the insecurity in the southeast.
Not just in the
Meanwhile,
south,
the place is so much militarized as against war-torn zones in the north. Yet they don't have that kind of military presence. So what does that tell you?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chukuma. We really need to go. Our time is fast spent. It's always a pleasure to have these conversations with you on the World News at 12.
All right. Thanks for having me, Chairman.
Thank you so much for coming. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories. Again, you have been listening to the World News at 12 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. You heard that Governor Fubara has begun the implementation of the Supreme Court verdict. Senate breaks silence on sexual harassment allegations against Akpabio. Obasa Miranda to resign as Lagos Assembly reconvenes. And UK Prime Minister announces coalition to guarantee Ukraine peace. And that is a wrap on the World News at 12. My name is Chioma Innocent. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.